So you have the basic concepts. Let me just work this image a little bit and you can follow along. So earlier we did this little area and I undid it in the history. So let's go back and start here. All I'm using is the patch tool. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm going to hop over here now to the clone stamp tool, making my brush a little bit bigger. I'm setting my option point right about here. And I'm going to drag this over here. I'm going to kind of come back here and do it back and forth a little bit. I do have aligned turned on up here in my options bar. Now, I'm going to make my brush a little bit smaller, and I'm going to come way over here. And I'm going to set my source point. Notice that the crosshairs of my brush are right in the middle of that line. I'm going to hit the option key. I'm going to click once. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to click once. And I'm going to hold my shift key, and I'm going to come to this very edge, and I'm going to click again. What I just did was I drew a straight line from the point where I started to the point where I ended. And then I'm going to come over here and just do a little bit more work underneath that line. Oops, I was a little too close. Command Z to undo something that I'm still a little too close. Source point. Okay, got it. And then I'll just kind of work this like so. That was a good start there. Next up, I want to recreate the line that was probably here, just like we had all around the image. To do that, and I already kind of cheated and did a little homework before I brought you guys into this, I'm going to use my paintbrush tool. And let's look up here in my options bar. I set my size of my brush to 3 pixels and my hardness to 93, or you could even probably do 94%. And how I figured that out was I just came over here and drew a line right on my image, and I just looked at the two side by side to see if I was in the ballpark, and I am. Command Z. If I started with something bigger, you can see, oh, that's way too big, Command Z, and I can just come in here and just keep playing until I get to the size that I want, which was 3. The other thing I have to think about is what tone, what color do I want this line to be? So I came over here to the color picker and I clicked on my foreground color, and let's just say that's what it was. I came out here into my canvas with my color picker and I picked this gray line and I clicked on it, and that gave me a color of the gray that's very similar. So I hit OK, and then I came in here and I drew it out. I'm like, okay, that looks good. It's pretty close. I could be lighter or I could be darker, so I'd want to finesse that to match it up visually. So Command Z again to undo that. So the next thing I'm going to do, now that I've got my brush size, I've got a hardness for my brush, and I have the color of my brush, is I'm going to come right to where I want that line to start, and I'm going to click once. So I'm going to click right here in this corner, click once, and I'm going to scroll down to the bottom of the image where I want the line to end. And I'm going to line up my cursor. I'm going to hold the Shift key so that I can draw that straight line, and I'm going to click. And notice it just drew a straight line. Well, I think that you're seeing what I'm seeing is that I drew a straight line, but my image wasn't straight. So I really want that line to be there, so I'm going to take the time to go in and retouch this area from here. So I'm going to come back here to my clone stamp tool, and I'm just going to take my time and make this look awesome. Now, retouching takes time. It takes patience. So it's something you're going to want to give some time to. Just like with many of these tools. There we go. You can see it's coming along nicely. But we're always going to continue to look at the little details, okay? I didn't like that, so I'm going to do Command Z. I'm going to start my source point here. I'm going to click once, hold my Shift key, drag that line down. Okay, let's make this a little bit bigger and set the source point up here this time. Just kind of work our way back and forth. Brush smaller, source point, click, click, source point, click, click. So you can see it didn't really take me that long to take care of that. I'm going to hop over here to my patch tool again and just continue to work the big problems that I see. So I generally work from the biggest stuff to the smallest. And here we go. So I hope that gives you a little bit better feel as to what we're doing. Let's come back over here into the dress for a second. Command D to get rid of that image. I told you guys that this was a water spot, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to use my clone stamp tool again. Because it's on a line, I'm going to pick right here, set my source point, and come up here and just paint along here. Come here and just kind of work my way along to diminish that. I'm not trying to do it in great big steps. I'm trying to do it in little thoughtful ways. But at the same time, I can still paint where need be. Okay, so that's looking better as well. I'm going to get this spot on her hair while I'm here. I'm going to get this spot up here in her hair. Let's see, I'm going to do the spot on her face. I can hop over here to my healing brush, make it smaller. I'm using the bracket keys. Source point, click. Make this a little bit bigger. I'm just going to work out here a little bit now. Click, click, click. I didn't set my source point for those because it was pretty standard. Come over here, get that. Come over here, get that. I'm always going to work on the people last, but as I see stuff as I'm working, I'm kind of like going after it. And I'm going to grab the clone stamp tool for right here on her neck, because that's an area where it's potentially going to blend. There we go. And blending means pulling the black into the lighter so it wouldn't be a nice clone. Right here is a line on a line, so I'm still using the clone tool. And remember, spacebar, any tool that you're on turns to the hand tool so you can move your canvas around. I'm going to come back up here, grab this again, and work my way through the image. Yeah, that's what I want. I want this one on her face. Space, we're going to hold the Option key to set that point that we want to clones from to. And I didn't like that. Command Z, let's pick something a little closer. That was too dark. So that's looking better. She's got some stuff on her face. One thing to remember is to try to keep the texture, try to keep the tonality, try to keep the dimensionality of the faces. So you don't want to clone out the shadows and all of the noise. That's not really necessary. We're trying to keep it in the spirit of the image as well. Okay. On her, she's got this spot right here. So let's clone that a little bit. That's looking good. And come over here. Now, sometimes you work on this so much you can't tell what you've cloned and what you haven't cloned and what's a mistake and what's not a mistake. So remember, you can always turn on and off the eyeball in the layers panel to see the work that you've done. And when you do that, a lot of times things that you missed pop out. So be sure to do that. And I do it both up close at 100% and then down where I can actually see it. So look at how much we've done so far. Let's move on.